were saying? What were you saying about like having a problem with Jesus being black?
I don't know.
All right. My kids, man. Well, it has been a good day today. What you do today?
I know how to get it going.
Welcome to the Canon Fodder Podcast. We really don't have a topic today.
Episode 3.
It's just 3. We're just gonna wing it.
We're actually doing like a little lighthearted episode. Yeah. But the thing that I was thinking of today about myself is my use of language. Because I struggle with it immensely. And as we've mentioned before, maybe this is your first episode. It shouldn't be. We'd appreciate it if you went back and watched earlier episodes.
Watch the other 2.
Just in case you're getting like this from a snippet that we make or anything, we're catechumens in the Orthodox Church.
Let's go ahead and make that while we're here.
Yeah, make a pronouncement about that.
We will be doing most likely like Eastern Orthodox centered content, and maybe every now and then while we're catechumens, and even when we're not and we're actually officially Orthodox Christians, we just want to let everybody know that anything that we say, we're saying it as Orthodox Christians, but we're not saying it in terms of us speaking on behalf of the Orthodox
We're
Church.
not full-fledged representatives of the church.
We are not, and I don't want to be. So
even if I were to become one, I would be like the lowest of them. So keep that in mind, please.
Would never want to.
So back to the language thing. Yeah, as I've become the catechumen, I've been attending catechesis and liturgies and any other church events. I've been trying to change for the better.
And you have. You really have. And I genuinely congratulate. I mean, you slip up a lot.
Of course.
And
very much. I slip up a lot.
A lot.
I'll be the first to admit that. But it's also like the way I feel about it personally is that using foul language, depending on the context, is not a sin. And it definitely is a Christian, like, it's not Christian, like, to speak in, like, foul ways. But also, it's not something that you can't ever do. It's not like you're in trouble. I think, it's probably something that you could confess if you felt like you're having a real issue with it. But when it's just between pals or, I think the issue would come when it's meant to be hurtful. And I am guilty of that. I will admit it. There are people who know me and they know how I've been, but that's like what I am trying to change.
Yeah, you guys don't know him. I know him.
Yeah. But when it comes to just, every once in a while, something flies off the cuff. It's not always terrible. But I think, obviously, the boomer response is, well, you sound smarter when you don't. And that's true. I talk bad about it, but it's a true statement. But it's not like it's secular only words.
Right.
If somebody felt strongly about something,
because it's only offensive, like in terms of like context related. It's just like if you say, I'm gonna just say it, because like nigga, like exactly. I use that word. I wouldn't use that word technically in certain contexts, but if it's just me and the boys, I'm effectively a sailor when it comes to that word. I can't,
especially because they own it. It's their word.
Yeah, it's our word. It did. God. But yeah, but even cursing is very context related. Like I think.
Let me put it this way: there's no direct sin in scripture or in tradition that says that you can't smoke tobacco, but people know that it's probably not the best thing to do. It's spiritually unhealthy as well as physically unhealthy. Swearing, what's the word? Excessively is probably also spiritually unhealthy, which is why I'm trying to fix that.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's how I would put it. It's cigarettes for the soul is when you have a potty mouth.
Good gosh. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but like I said, you really have, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Especially like, I remember you dropped a swear word every now and then, like in front of my children. And I never said anything because I was just like, he's trying. Like he obviously didn't notice because he probably would be like, oh my bad. So it was just like,
I definitely did. And the craziest part is like when I used to run in circles where people frankly did like drugs and stuff. Like they would always have kids around and like they would act like it's not a problem. And that's like really crazy to me now. Now that I had up some kind of like basis for my moral standards, I'm definitely not gonna go showing any of that behavior in front of kids if I can help it.
Yeah, you definitely should.
No.
That's crazy. Like, what do you think is like the like when you say the moral standard? Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, not to get preachy about it, but before before becoming a catechumen and longing for Eastern Orthodoxy, prior to that, I had no theistic beliefs, had no grounding for what I thought was right or not. And so when it came to stuff like, you find yourself using words like that for no reason. You'll be talking about a sentence, of course, like a normal sentence, like I'm going to go to Burger King. And then people will be like, yeah, I'm going to effing go to dang old Burger King. Then what's the point in that? It's really unnecessary.
Yeah, it's a lot of people that do that. Like, I never got that. I never got that personally for me. Because it's like, I'm not saying that I don't ever slip up or anything. It's just like I've never really like used expletives like that.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe I will slip up every now and then. Like like when I said whatever I said to you like yesterday. I was like, I'll just try to test it out.
You slipped it on like a shoe and you were like, oh, get it off.
I was just testing it out.
Really funny.
I don't like it at all. So it's just I get that. So for me, it was.
Would you say it's like now? I mean, at least this is how I would describe it. But I desire to be a representative of Christ, and so when I go around talking to people, and if they're interested in faith or whatever, then having that kind of like lesser intelligent speech, I guess is how I would put it. Like, because it is foul, but you could also be foul and poetic.
And I think it sort of depends on like, hey, what is your like what's your MO, so effectively speaking. Like you know like these people that do like blood sport debating. And I'm not trying to call anybody out in particular, but so you have these people who do these blood sport debating, and I'm not trying to like police tone or anything, but it's more so about, hey, like what's your mission here in terms of the way that you're approaching people and the way that you speak to people.
And if you're doing it in good faith, you don't want to talk like that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you,
because you're gonna risk cutting people off, and like people are just gonna close down if you like, according to how the like the way that you are using terminology and the way that you are speaking to them. Because I know for a fact, like you ever heard that kind of terminology where it's like, hey, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. But even then, it's sometimes what you say too, so to speak. But it really has to do with how you say it.
You could be saying something perfectly logical, but it's like, if you got too much dip on your chip, then it's going to sound crazy, out of pocket. People aren't going to want to talk to you. I've learned that.
Give an example.
It's just coming on a little too strong with ideas. Maybe somebody might say something and it's like, oh, they know, so I could bring this up. And then it's like, hold on. They might not.
That's something, yeah. You're absolutely right. That's something I've really had to like I've had to learn to hold my tongue. Because I do know with a lot of people, like, let's just say like New Testament criticism, so in terms of New Testament criticism, I'm not saying I just wholeheartedly agree with like the consensus on New Testament criticism. Like so there's this idea of the delay of the parousia in the New Testament, and I won't go much into it because I'm trying to use discernment here, but there's this idea in New Testament of like the delay of the parousia, and it's like once you get to a point where you're talking to somebody about it, like not like sometimes they don't know what you're talking about, and they're utterly unaware of it, and it gets to a point where it's like, like maybe I shouldn't bring this up at all, because like people respond to information in certain ways that's like a little bit weird, so to speak. So it's like, hey, yeah, I can absolutely bring this up with you, but then it's like they don't really respond to it in the way that you're trying to elicit, like, I guess like a coming into the conversation. People don't always do that all the time. And so I've had to learn, for me at least, and I'm even learning this with you, because sometimes I'll say some stuff and I'm like, I probably shouldn't have brought that up. At least not right now. Like, I probably shouldn't have brought that up like right now. Like maybe later on, because there's obviously stuff that I know that you've yet to know. Like I've even tried to exercise that like in restraint. There's a lot of stuff that I've never even spoken to you about thus far, where I'm like, I should probably like hold off at the moment. But sometimes I'll just talk. For example, today. So I feel, and I'm not going to go into it because I won't go into the details, but I feel certain things that we have conversations about, I don't feel that it was wise of me to bring you into that fray like thus far, because like I said, when it comes to religion and when it comes to like a lot of the things that we talk about, like it's a rabbit hole of different things. And I've been in it for years, and so it's like I have a way more fuller understanding. Obviously, you know stuff that I don't know, like a lot about a certain country. But for me, I always think, at least I try to think now, I'm like, hey, maybe I shouldn't have brought that up yet. Like maybe that's for like a year in or a year down the line or something like that. So I'm even trying to exercise a restraint and discernment now. And I just, sometimes you fail at it. So like in terms of even cursing, I think you have to exercise a bit of discernment, contextually speaking, when it comes to the people that you are talking to. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Especially like earlier when you're talking about like full preterists, like people with who.
No. Well, full preterism, I think. Well, and I'm not a full preterist. Just to be clear, I'm not a full preterist. I am a preterist
because we know that the second coming is yet to happen.
Yes.
I think that's something we're allowed to say, because that's
and
like
the Nicene Creed forbids you to believe that it already happened. Yes. So I am a preterist, and at least
that's not a matter of opinion for us, really.
Like at least a partial preterist. I'm not a full preterist, because I believe full preterism, like it will lead you to apostasy.
Yeah.
I don't see how it can't or something like that. But I mean, that would be one thing. If I was a full preterist, I would not explain that to you at all.
People have brought it up and they don't even understand the kind of logic of what they're saying and what it implies.
Yeah.
And I think, and me as not being as knowledgeable as I am, I think if they did know, then they probably wouldn't think that way. But like you said, it's like these pit stops while I'm coming into religion, and like you stop at each problem, and it's not as quickly as being able to parse what you believe and what you don't, because you could just go deeper and deeper. And it's like, well, this guy wrote a book in 2003 about it, but his was based on a dissertation paper written in 1974 on it. But then that guy was looking at this church father from 560, and you go back and back, and it'll flip flop. Especially like, just as an example, when it comes to like defending oneself in Christianity, there is such a split in opinion on it. And so that's something that I still wouldn't even dare try to tell somebody what the answer is to it. I would not try to come at them and be like, oh, well, if you look at this guy, he definitely says that it's okay. No, it's so mixed. And that's why when it comes to Christianity, there is dogma, but there's also stuff that you kind of have to figure out on your own.
Yeah. I mean, because I think even with, I guess right now I could say that I am a Christian pacifist, but I don't hold that dogmatically. But it feels weird to not hold it dogmatically because
it's clearly very encouraged at the very least. At the very least, I think you have to acknowledge that it's sort of the consensus.
I mean, at least for me, I mean, I think we're gonna go into talking about Orthodoxy here, but it's like it's a tangential, like external kind of speak. We're not talking about Orthodoxy full stop in toto. It's more so about these certain aspects of Orthodoxy, and we're not getting into we're not making any theological pronouncements about it. So I think we're safe at least. But like even in terms of pacifism, like you can go to multiple church fathers, and even just look down the line of history, and you do see pacifists in the tradition. You see persons who are wholeheartedly for for self-defense, or they advocate a form of just war theory. Like you see a lot of this stuff, and then you even see a lot of people who are Orthodox YouTubers, and they'll tell you straight up, well, hey, Orthodoxy clearly establishes and affirms the idea of self-defense, and
it's supported by our abundance of warrior saints. I mean, that's just not me defending, but me giving what's due to the other, one side of the argument, which is George, Theodore. We have a lot of saints who shed blood for various reasons.
So I think that's the one thing that at least I feel like as we've been going, and I feel like you've been at least taking it a little bit harder than I have. But
for sure. Well, that's because for me it's like a paradigm shift, because when I was an atheist, there was no reason not to believe that if anybody even breathes on me wrong, as long as it's legal, they're getting aired out. That's kind of a very common help. You have atheist pacifists, but I don't think it's as common.
No, it's not. It's
because they're like, oh, this is my property. That's all I got in this world. The stardust that I've collected, nobody's going to touch it. So they go ham on them.
Yeah.
And then for me, coming to a religion that is mostly turn the other cheek, it's a very hard thing to swallow.
It is.
But right now, I guess if I was going to make some kind of, not a theological statement, but my personal thinking as of right now is I would still do it, but it would be very situational. And one thing I could admire and say I'm super glad about Orthodoxy is that those things are considered. There's a lot of fathers who say, well, if a person's been to war, they're not a criminal, then they should maybe take a break from the Eucharist or something like that. In other denominations, specifically Protestants or non-denominationals, they probably wouldn't think twice about it. And they would probably find some verse that's smite your foe with lightning, and they'd be like, see, you did right.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, and I think that's where we are right now too, because with me, and it's not a doubting of the Orthodox faith being true. It's just I guess the Orthodox apologetics happen, but they don't necessarily get into the complexities and the nuances and the ambiguity, because sure, you absolutely do have you have epistemic justifications for certain things that other religious traditions we're convinced they don't have, but that doesn't necessarily rid you of the muddiness within the tradition too. And so it's of the muddiness, and it's also the ambiguity and the nuances, and some stuff is just not that clear. It's not clearly fleshed out all the time. And so that's where I think a lot of the frustration can come in, because you're looking at this with the ecumenical councils, with tradition, with canons, with the canon law and everything like that. But then you have people who are like well respected within the Orthodox Church, like Callisto's Weir, R.I.P. Big Dog, and then he'll say certain things that seem to that seem to elicit this idea that there's different degrees of authority within the tradition, and it's like, but that kind of goes into, okay, well, how do you met out what degree of authority this particular thing or this particular thing or this particular thing has within the tradition? Because obviously the highest authority is the ecumenical councils, and then you have scripture, obviously, and then you have like maybe local synods, and then you have the consensus and the ecclesiastical bodies, and then you have the tradition, the consensus and the tradition of the church, all within the tradition and within holy orthodoxy. So all of that stuff is just very difficult to suss out, and it does help that we can ask our priest certain things, because he's absolutely helped me understand certain things. Like we haven't gotten the ability to fully like just sit down with him and just like go at him a little bit, but he has helped, at least for me. He's helped a little bit in sussing out certain ideas within orthodoxy and how to understand them. But for me, it's more of a how do I, like, do I believe in like a sort of conciliar fundamentalist kind of approach to the ecumenical councils, where even not only are the doctrinal decrees dogmatic for us, but even like the minutes of the ecumenical councils, you also have to, so to speak, lend yourself to those. And it's like, I was under the assumption that only the dogmatic decrees are infallible, and those are dogmatic for us. But then like certain people within the tradition, they argue for something else, and it's just so complicated. But that doesn't like scare me away, because it doesn't matter where you go, you're going to have to face these complexities. Whether you're in Roman Catholicism, which is way worse in terms of trying to met out all of that stuff, and then even in Protestantism, it may seem more simple, but not really, because you got 45,000 different traditions technically, and that's probably like an exaggeration, but like you got the Anglicans, you got Lutherans, you got the Episcopalians, and they're all preaching different things and all the different types of stuff. So you're always going to be like faced with the complexity of religion, especially within Christianity, whether you're in the one true church or not. And the point is that like Christ is perfect, but his people are not. And we're like, that's the reason why we're here. Like the church is the hospital, and we're here to partake of the sacraments in a synergistic unity with Christ, and through the ascetic life and things like that, through fasting. We're doing all of these things in order to effectively tame our gnomic will, to have it aligned with God, like have it aligned with God's will, with God's will, and be in unity with it, at least in harmony with it. So sometimes people don't do that, whether they're high up in the church or not. People don't do that consistently all the time, and there's obviously going to be problems that spring up. Like, we wouldn't have any of these problems if the church was just Jesus. So, but we have all of these people that are not perfect, and we're all struggling through life. We're all trying to continue on this path of salvation as we're being saved, and people are going to mess up. People are going to have wrong opinions. People are going to say weird stuff within the tradition. It's always like that. So.
And they're going to have disagreements and break communion and these terrible, terrible things that we wish wouldn't happen.
I mean, that's true.
I think Father Josiah Trenum said, if the church were perfect, then where in the world would we belong in it?
Yeah,
And I love that.
I like that too.
It's very real because, like you said, it's the hospital. Like the church is for our souls to be healed. And if it were perfect, like heaven, then we would have no place in it. So the belonging in an imperfect church is an imperfect flock that can be rejoined, I guess, with the spirit in the body, mystical body of Christ. And that's what I've learned to hunger for and desire.
And that's what I think that's really what we're doing. I mean, I know we like even with fasting, and I found out that it's way more difficult. I will say this. The way the way that I can like not break fast
by eating like crackers.
No, just eating a lot of kiwi. Eating a lot of
ton of fruit.
Man, that's some good stuff for me. But like, so it's just that's difficult. It really is a difficult path taken, but it's worth it for sure. It really is worth it. And we're just praying. I pray to God that we can at least get some kind of peace of mind, and we will, because we're part of Holy Orthodoxy. We'll be able to partake in the sacraments and participate in the Holy Orthodox life. But still, even with that, is a lot of not inconsistencies, but a lot of like.
I'll fully admit, when I first started attending church regularly, it was an initial like feeling of respite, being able to rest. It felt like laying down for the first time in a long time in terms of like mental thought. It was like being tired without realizing it. But now I've been in for a while. I've been attending and being a catechumen for a while, and I'll be completely honest, it has gotten difficult again. But I think that's meant to be, because if it were easy, then it would be nothing. It's gonna, especially like, you think you have things figured out, but then you really start to learn, and you got to rethink things, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. So,
and that's why I think the idea that the church is the new Israel, like if you think about the idea in the Old Testament where Jacob, he actually like wrestles with God. This is what Israel means. This is what the word Israel means. It means to wrestle with God. Mm-hmm. I think the fact that the church is now the new Israel, that doesn't mean that you no longer wrestle with the complexities, the nuances, and the ambiguities of the faith. Now it's just more so. Like now we know that Christ's church has been established, but it's yet to be perfected, so to speak, at least within the individuals of the church. So now because we are the new Israel, I think now we still have to go on into the Orthodox life and wrestle with spiritual life, and wrestle with the scriptures, wrestle with the tradition, and obviously be humble, like in humility for sure. But at the same time, you can't turn your brain off and not actually think about it. Obviously, hold the church fathers in high regard, but don't turn your brain off. You gotta wrestle with this stuff, and you gotta think about it. And that is, in my opinion, at least a degree or an aspect of what it means to be a Christian. And it's to wrestle and dealing in your wavering and your deliberative capacity. You are at the very least doing the best you possibly can to align your will with God. And sometimes you don't always do it, but you are trying. But at the same time, you gotta think. You can't stop thinking, and you can't turn your brain off. You gotta continue to wrestle within the tradition, within Holy Orthodoxy, because I think it's just a necessary aspect of it.
I mean, without being too detailed about it, it's been some months since I began attending an Orthodox parish and attending classes and trying to be present for feast days and events and stuff like that. And in those months, I have received trial. I've learned a lot, and I'm definitely, I would like to think I'm better for it, but I have better by a grain of sand. The rest of it, though, you got the whole sandbox to figure out. So what I've been rewarded with is trial, hardship, learning, struggling and wrestling, like you put it, wrestling with the idea of our Lord, of our Father, of the Creator. Whereas those months ago, when I first decided, that week, that day, whatever, I could have had a slice of cheese pizza and a Coca-Cola, and I could have been baptized that day. You could get the instant gratification of, hey, brother, oh, what's your name? I don't need to know that. Get in the tank. Here's your cheese pizza and Coca-Cola. Welcome. It's like, that's not what I came for.
Right.
I didn't come for a rock concert. I know that's tired. A lot of people have said that, but I'm not expecting a rock concert and laser light show from Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, man. This, Orthodoxy is hard, bro. It is hard.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely hard. But
I guess what I was trying to say earlier, and this is going to sound a little rough, but it's the truth. A little bit of that mysticism and fantasy will wear off.
Yeah.
And that's when it gets difficult. Do not be fooled. It's amazing to have the culture, the unchanged, the house built on the rock. It's weathered the storm for 2,000 years. That's so attractive about it. But that amazement eventually will give way, and then it's the hard part, which is staying
safe,
staying loyal, staying true, avoiding your passions, fighting in your passions, because it is hard. And I know there's a lot of people out there who can relate to that. So
absolutely,
don't give up.
And I think this is literally what you've been going through and what we've been going through. Even the intellectual aspects of the struggle. It's all of that is necessary within your own salvation. These things are that which you need to contend with, and within that contention, stand firm and hold to the faith and cleave to the church. That's what I think allows for the gnomic will to, you're basically beating it down, and you're allowing for your gnomic mode of willing to sort of contract. And the more that contracts through the life of the church, through the sacraments, through the ascetic life, that is the thing. And it, even the ascetic life and the sacraments, all of that stuff happens. It's not just it's not in a bodily way. It's a spiritual way. It effectively helps and aids in clearing the noose, and declouding the noose. It helps even within your rational person. It clears stuff up, but it never stops until you're dead. That's the thing. And so that's the whole perseverance aspect. This that we're going through, maybe at some point it'll get better, but hard times are going to happen. I guarantee you that in the event that I lose anybody that's close to me, even as an Orthodox Christian, it's going to be extremely difficult for me to stay Orthodox, to even stay theist. But that's kind of the point. You need to struggle. That's the point, in my opinion, to struggle with the Orthodox life. And whether it's struggling in pain, whether it's struggling to reconcile evil with God's goodness, whether it's struggling to, whatever it may be, all of these things I think are necessary. And so where we are now, I don't think it's been for nothing. I think it's literally just a necessary byproduct of of Orthodox life, and our job is to come out on the other side in perseverance. Yeah.
It was a huge relief for me to learn that literally hundreds, like tons, like none, too many for me to possibly name because I only know a handful, but literally hundreds of the like most ultra pious hesychast fathers and monks always struggled with thoughts. That's the untamable. Well, it is tameable, but you can't kill the beast. You can only tame it, and it's a perpetual process. And that's what I get out of what you mean by the intellectual fight, as well as the bodily, physical fight against our disordered passions. It's just a constant war, And there's a spiritual battle against demons, which some people encounter that, but even without that, we have to fight the fallen part of ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's the reason why I just haven't I guess with everything we've been like having to do it. Like I think at least to a certain extent, to a certain point, like even the idea of like the schism happening with Russia and Constantinople. At some point, like we were literally like in the trenches, like trying to dig up stuff. Like, yo, how do we reconcile this? And it's like, in reality, it matters, but it don't matter. It's like Orthodox life is about parish life. It's about you participating within divine liturgy, within Vespers, like within feasts, within all of these things. Like that's your charge as an Orthodox Christian, and obviously that matters. But long story short, it don't really matter that much to us. It shouldn't really matter that much to us.
As far as I can tell, it largely affects the clergy. For us lay people, it's a possibility, but our spiritual father, has told us that go get communion if you need to from wherever you're at, and he approved it no matter what it sounds like. So it's up to the church that's going to be receiving you if they want you to participate in the Eucharist or any sacrament with them. So as long as you're faithful, I think, to Holy Orthodoxy in the church, then the most that we could do is pray for it to be healed. I think that's actually the most we could do.
Yeah.
Fretting over it got me nowhere.
And I think we're going to realize that a lot of the issues that we see, they really won't matter. Like and like in the grand scheme of things, it's just like it matters, but it don't. Like it doesn't matter to your salvation. It doesn't matter to your path to theosis. It doesn't really matter that much, and to devote so much time to it. Sure, like learn about it, but in reality,
yeah, those types of things certainly can be trials in a way on your road to theosis. But I mean, the way that I've been dealing with it is as long as I know what I'm willing to die for and not.
And like I said, you've been dealing with it in a different way than I have too. And I know you think that I've already told you this, only because like I don't know how it's inescapable. Like my comfort within the muddiness and the ambiguity, it's never, I think it's never like fully like destabilized me, so to speak. And like I said, you could say, hey, it's me suppressing my rationality. I don't know, but it's the fact that I have a wife and I have kids. It's like I can't afford. My entire family became catechumens. It's not just me. It's my wife and my children. And for me to just waffle, for me to waver from one thing to another and just like feign agnosticism. I just can't afford to do that. And because of that, I'm more than willing, even like obviously I'm not shutting my brain off because we've had conversations like my brain is going, but at the same time, it's just never gotten to a point where like I'm wavering so much because I can't afford to do so. I really can't. And it's like, I think Orthodoxy is true, and all these other tangentially related topics and subjects, they really do, they matter and they're interesting to me. But what's the main thing? The main thing is to be wedded to the church, to be partaking in the Orthodox life, and that's my thing. And all those other things that I may have a problem with, they don't really matter in the grand scheme of things because this is what I need. And the fact that I have them with me, like, it's really difficult for me to be like, oh, that's one thing. I guess, hey, maybe I just need to hold back and like, you know, relax and just like rethink it. Just like it's almost like it's I'm at a point where I'm like, there's no turning back. Like there's really no turning back for me. It's either now or never. And I'm not 23 anymore without children. I can't afford to go back. Do you know how many times? You know how many like different denominations I embraced in my early 20s? Like at some point I embraced Calvinism, I embraced Anabaptism, I embraced the Anabaptists and the Mennonites. I was like contemplating Roman Catholicism. I was a Baptist growing up, Pentecostal growing up. I literally went to everything except like most mainline Protestant denominations. I'd never really entertained them, but I entertained everything else. And then at some point, I was a Hebrew Israelite. All of that stuff, I was like,
Mennonites are based.
They are.
but regardless of that.
But like it's like now I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to do that anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's like even with atheism, like at the very least, I did entertain it, and I was agnostic. But like my fundamental, and this is just me subjectively speaking. I'm not saying that everybody should agree and be persuaded with this reasoning as to why like theism is true. For me, agnosticism and atheism, in my opinion, if you like if you're being logically consistent with the positions, it's unlivable. Yeah. It's unlivable for me, and that doesn't mean that it's false, but it functionally means that it's not a psychologically I guess what do you call it? It's not a psychologically or intellectually viable position for me to take as a man, as a husband, as a father. I can't afford to do those things because I know like it just wouldn't make sense to me, like in terms of the fact that I love my wife and I love my kid and I love my children. It wouldn't make sense to me on any of those particular positions. So it's like I'm a theist because of that, and that is my primary argument against atheism and agnosticism. Obviously people can poke holes in it, but it's like you don't understand it. I'm not saying that this is what everybody should embrace. This is just me. This is where I am. This is me trying to reason and utilize logic and utilize even my experience as a father, as a man, as a husband. These things seem to be untenable on these other positions, and that is fundamentally why I am a theist. And because of all of that stuff, I can't afford to just like waver and be like, oh, maybe this, maybe that, maybe this, maybe that. It's like, no, I can't do that because the most fundamental questions of my life, I don't waver on. Like, I don't waver on the idea of, well, maybe the love that I have for my wife isn't really love. Maybe it's just like this neurochemical reaction going on in my brain, and that's all it is. So it's not really, so whatever love it is, like, it's like I immediately think poppycock, like utter nonsense.
It's your computer brain running code so that your genetics get recreated and reproduced.
I was like,
that you make offspring, and that's it. It's just a primal thing.
that doesn't ring true to me. Like it seems like utter nonsense.
It's absolute
to me.
Hogwash.
Like I don't know how else to say it. I don't know what else to do. And so it's like because of that, that's influencing the way that I reason. And it influences the way that I reason on a lot of things. And I may be wrong. I could be wrong on that. Like on the way that I'm getting to specific opinions and like I guess consequences or conclusions. But that is what it is. I can't help it. And I think for a lot of men, the maturing aspect of accepting the responsibility of being a husband and being a father, it's going to necessarily, in a lot of ways, influence how you reason. Like even how you reason is gonna change. And so like how I thought in my early 20s is not how I think now. And it's not because, oh, well, your brain has matured and hardened. It's like, no, that's not I don't think that's a viable like option. It's the fact that I have responsibilities, and these responsibilities are, at least in my opinion, from where I can assess, they're hinting at these fundamental realities like love, beauty, like these things actually exist. They're not just neurochemical reactions in my brain.
I think if you're a Christian, then it almost like...
I just talked a lot.
I don't want to say by default makes you pro-natalist, but if you're a Christian, then you should be pro-natalist.
Yeah.
Almost to the extreme. But that brings me to the point that I've been wanting to say, probably this entire time through every episode, is that it feels like secular society is pushing back on that. They do not want people reproducing. They've made it hard for anybody to own anything. I'm 25 and own very little. I'm on my own, doing what I can, and they have no... I'm not going to say they're like actively preventing people from reproducing, but it is not in their interests. They could not care in the slightest, because there will always be a consumer base, somebody to market to, even if they have to import them. What they don't care. So eventually people like me are just going to have to, like, I don't want to say force it, but have a child, or honestly I want as many children as I can. And I think this is another like Josiah Trenum talking point, is that you should have kids outside of your monetary capabilities. Even if it's at your detriment, it's not really at your detriment, because
that's asceticism.
The best thing you could do for humanity and for your own life is to continue the gift of life, the ultimate gift. Mm-hmm. So eventually that's one of my biggest goals right now. Not my only goal, other than to pay my bills every month.
I mean, that's even being Orthodox has made me like it. We were genuinely thinking that, hey, we're done with kids. And I'm not saying that we want another one. It's like, financially speaking, like 3 children, that's pretty, especially where we are, that's difficult for us.
And but we don't handouts.
Right. And yeah, we don't utilize any handouts. So it's like for us, because we've become Orthodox, like we now understand that, you, like as Orthodox Christians, like you have to be open to life. Like that is one aspect of being an Orthodox couple. You have to be open to life, to procreation. It's like, so at some point we were like, oh.
That being open to life point is actually so true, because I never would have moved out of my parents' house, because before it's like, why wouldn't I stay here with my parents? Because then I can only pay for like my car and my phone, and then I get food for free, and then I can waste all my money on meaningless things. Mm-hmm. And then eventually I realized, like, I don't desire most of this monetary or physical, like, it's just tedium is what it is. So I said, I'm going to move out, even if that just leaves me with only enough to sustain myself. And, I still have room for downsizing, because that's just where I'm at right now, is only valuing like my soul, valuing my salvation, valuing my spiritual brothers and sisters, my spiritual family at the parish, basically. So,
it feels like, to me, like nothing else really matters
at this point.
Like nothing else really matters. Like I get excited, and we come late a lot of times, but I get genuinely excited to go to divine liturgy. Like I get genuinely excited, and
some people come for like the last 30 minutes. I don't know what they're just there for the Eucharist.
Yeah, that's all they do.
But at least you're not that late. You're only like 15 minutes late.
Yeah, but it's like, so for me, it's just, I just want, like, I want God, man. And if I find God in Holy Orthodoxy, then that's where I want to be. That's where I need to be. And I think God is here. The Holy Spirit is living within the Holy Orthodox Church. And if that's where God is, that's where I want to be. And if I gotta do certain things and like sacrifice certain things, like this whole asceticism point is really, like, that's really difficult for me to like internalize, but I know it's necessary. So I think this is where like the humility comes in. Like, you have to be humble enough to participate. And so
forgiving, that's like, you're humble and forgiving are the two things that I never was. So yeah, it's a long, hard road.
But we're here for it, and we're definitely ready to wade the waters and just.
So that's a good way to, we're not making this to educate people, more so as, at least in my mind, I'm doing this so I can have people for the ride along. And in the future, even after we get catechized, baptized, at least for me, baptized, after that, this can be a little like log in case people are coming into the same questions and trials that we are. They can have something to look at and maybe get some guidance, loosely I'd say guidance. Or we're also just here to like entertain y'all.
For sure, absolutely. I mean, I actually think this is from where it's been, without even like a set idea that we were trying to go into. I think this has been the best one so far, honestly.
Yeah, we got like more spiritual matters, and we'll do other stuff later on topics if there's anything that we think is important in terms of world events, which like
Avengers, like Marvel movies.
Maybe. I'd like film. Keyword being film.
Yeah. He makes a distinction for something.
We'll see what we decide to. We're definitely not gonna review any weirdo A24 stuff. Y'all can get that out of here. It's Kino. No.
A24 some A24 movies are good.
Visually appealing, but content, like, that's a whole other topic for a whole other day.
We can talk about that. Yeah.
I guess.
I agree.
Thank you guys so much.
See you back next time.
Take it easy.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.